The subterranean chamber pulsed faintly with an eerie, golden light. Amir Khaled, a seasoned Egyptologist with a penchant for uncovering the unconventional, stood at the edge of the ancient tomb, his breath shallow. This was no ordinary burial site. Deep within the sands of Saqqara, this hidden crypt had evaded discovery for millennia. What he saw now, however, made the years of grueling fieldwork feel trivial. The mummy lay on a raised obsidian platform, its wrappings pristine despite the passage of over 3,000 years. What struck Amir wasn't the mummy itself, but the faint, rhythmic shimmer emanating from the fabric that encased it. He stepped closer, his flashlight trembling as he moved. "Are you seeing this?" He called to his assistant, Dev Patel, who stood frozen at the entrance. Dev nodded, his face pale. "It's reacting to your light." "That's impossible." Amir crouched, bringing the flashlight closer. The golden shimmer on the wrappings intensified and then resolved into something more structured. Tiny, glowing patterns emerged, forming intricate designs that shifted as if alive. "This isn't cloth," Amir whispered. "It's something else." Dev finally snapped out of his stupor and rushed forward, pulling out his portable scanner. He ran it over the shimmering wrappings, his brow furrowing as lines of data streamed onto his tablet. "Amir," Dev said, his voice unsteady, "these fibers, they're not organic. They're some sort of nanomaterial. And," he hesitated, staring at the readout, "they're carrying data." Amir's pulse quickened. "You mean the wrappings are encoded?" Dev nodded. "Not just encoded. They're storing terabytes, no, petabytes, of information. This isn't just a burial shroud. It's a repository." As the two worked through the night, Amir and Dev carefully removed the wrappings from the mummy. With each layer peeled back, more glowing inscriptions appeared, lines of data etched into fibers, so advanced they defied everything modern science understood. The inscriptions resembled hieroglyphs, but there was something unmistakably alien about their precision and symmetry. "Dev," Amir said, "if this contains what I think it does, we're looking at a complete rewrite of history." The wrappings were carefully sealed in a sterile container and rushed to their lab in Cairo. There, Dev hooked the fibers to a custom-built interface. The device hummed softly as streams of data began to decrypt. Symbols transformed into patterns, patterns into equations, and equations into coherent text and visuals. "It's a library," Dev said after hours of work. "No, an archive. A complete record of ancient Egypt." Amir leaned closer to the screen, eyes wide. The translated text revealed a timeline of events, stretching back far beyond known history. It detailed the rise of the pharaohs, their alliances, and their mysterious benefactors, beings referred to only as the Sky Wardens. The text described how the Sky Wardens had descended from the heavens, bestowing the ancient Egyptians with knowledge of architecture, medicine, and energy systems. They weren't gods, the writings clarified, but travelers from distant stars. The pyramids, it explained, were not mere tombs, but part of a vast energy grid designed to draw power from the earth itself. The wrappings served as a failsafe, an encoded legacy in case humanity lost its way. As Amir read further, he realized something even more astonishing. The archive contained blueprints, schematics for technology centuries, perhaps millennia, ahead of anything on Earth. "This isn't just history," Amir said, his voice trembling. "It's a manual, instructions for building whatever they left behind." Dev hesitated. "Amir, do you realize what this means? If we can decipher all of this, we could advance human civilization by leaps and bounds. Or we could unleash something we're not ready for." Amir didn't reply. His gaze was locked on a particularly intricate diagram on the screen. It depicted a machine, its purpose labeled in a language that only partially translated: temporal resonance nexus. Below it, a note appeared, roughly decoded, to be activated only in the time of greatest need. Days later, word of Amir's discovery leaked. Representatives from shadowy organizations began appearing at the excavation site, and even their lab. Each came with veiled threats and promises of limitless funding, but Amir and Dev refused to hand over the wrappings. One evening, as Amir worked late in the lab, a knock echoed through the silent halls. Opening the door, he was confronted by an elderly man in a simple gray robe. His eyes were piercing, ancient yet alive with startling intensity. "You've uncovered something you don't fully understand," the man said without introduction. "You're tampering with knowledge, meant to remain hidden. And who are you to decide that?" Amir asked, his voice steady despite the unease creeping into his gut. The man stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "We are the Custodians. 4 generations. We have protected this knowledge, ensuring it does not fall into the wrong hands." Amir crossed his arms. "And who determines the wrong hands? Humanity deserves to know its true history." The Custodian's expression softened, but his tone remained firm. "The knowledge you've unearthed isn't just history. It's power. The kind of power that has destroyed civilizations before yours. The Sky Wardens left it encoded for a reason. Humanity was not ready for it then, and it is not ready now." Amir's resolve wavered, but he pushed forward. "If we're not ready, then why leave the knowledge at all?" The Custodian's eyes darkened. "Because there will come a time when it is needed. But that time is not today." Over the following weeks, Amir and Dev worked in secret, hiding their findings from both the Custodians and the increasingly aggressive organizations vying for control of the wrappings. Every layer of data revealed new wonders: energy systems that could power entire cities, medical techniques that could cure the incurable, and weapons that could obliterate continents. Amir struggled with his conscience. The Custodians' warnings echoed in his mind, but so did the potential for revolutionizing the world. Was it right to keep such knowledge hidden, or was it their responsibility to share it? Then came the final discovery. Buried deep within the encoded fibers was a message, not from the Sky Wardens, but from an ancient Egyptian scribe. The scribe described a catastrophic event, a rebellion among the Sky Wardens that had nearly destroyed the Earth. The energy grid, the pyramids, and the encoded wrappings were all part of an emergency plan to prevent such devastation from ever occurring again. The final line of the message sent chills down Amir's spine. "Beware the awakening. They are not all gone." As Amir sat alone in the lab, staring at the decoded message, the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air, growing louder until it resonated in his chest. The wrappings, stored in their sealed container, began to glow fiercely, the symbols on them shifting and rearranging. Dev burst into the room, panic etched across his face. "Amir, something's happening. The entire system is going haywire." Before Amir could respond, the container shattered, and the wrappings unraveled, floating in the air like a living thing. They coiled and twisted, forming an enormous holographic figure, a being of light and shadow with eyes like molten gold. The figure spoke, its voice a chorus of ancient tongues and alien harmonies. "The seal has been broken. The knowledge has been awakened. Now, you must choose, ascend with us, or perish beneath us." Amir's heart raced as the weight of the decision crushed him. The Sky Wardens had not vanished. They had simply been waiting for someone curious, ambitious, or foolish enough to unlock their legacy. As the figure loomed closer, Amir realized the choice was not his alone to make. It was humanity's. And he had just opened the door. The figure of light and shadow towered over Amir and Dev, its presence bending reality itself. The air shimmered, and time seemed to slow as the being studied them, its molten gold eyes piercing through their very souls. Dev stumbled backward, his voice a whisper. "Amir, what do we do?" Amir, rooted to the spot, forced himself to speak. "Who or what are you?" The being's voice resonated, a chorus of overlapping tones. "I am a sentinel, a fragment of the Sky Warden's will, left to guard the knowledge you have dared to awaken. The wrappings floated in the air around the sentinel, glowing brighter with each passing second. The lab's equipment began to spark, overwhelmed by the sheer energy emanating from the figure. Amir raised his hands, trying to project calm despite the pounding in his chest. "We mean no harm. We only seek to understand." The sentinel tilted its head, the light around it dimming slightly. Understanding is the first step toward misuse. The knowledge you have accessed is not yours to wield. It was encoded to protect your world, not to empower it. Dev, regaining some composure, stepped forward. "Wait. If this knowledge is so dangerous, why encode it in the first place? Why not destroy it?" The sentinel's form flickered, as if considering the question. The Sky Wardens foresaw many futures. Some required intervention. Others required humanity to rise beyond its limitations. The knowledge is both a gift and a test. You have reached it prematurely. Amir's mind raced. Prematurely? Are you saying humanity isn't ready for this technology? Correct, the sentinel intoned. Yet now that the seal is broken, the choice is upon you. The room darkened, and a series of holographic images materialized around them. They showed civilizations rising and falling, some consumed by war, others by greed or hubris. The final image was of Earth, bathed in fire, its continents unrecognizable. "This is what awaits should the knowledge be misused," the sentinel warned. But there is another path. The holograms shifted to show a thriving Earth, cities powered by clean energy, diseases eradicated, and humanity venturing beyond its solar system. With wisdom, the knowledge can unite your species and elevate it to join the cosmic order. Amir stepped forward, his voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. "How do we prove our wisdom?" The sentinel's eyes flared. "Through a trial." Before Amir or Dev could respond, the lab dissolved around them. They found themselves standing in an endless expanse of white, the sentinel floating before them. It raised one glowing hand, and three holographic constructs appeared, a pyramid, a scale, and a serpent. "Each represents a facet of your potential," the sentinel explained. "The pyramid is for creation, your ability to build and innovate. The scale is for balance, your ability to act with justice and restraint. The serpent is for survival, your capacity to endure and adapt. Choose your first trial." Amir and Dev exchanged glances. "The pyramid," Amir said after a moment. "If this knowledge is about creation, let's start there." The sentinel's form shifted, and the white expanse transformed into an arid desert. Before them stood a half-constructed pyramid, its stones glowing faintly. Strange alien machines hovered nearby, waiting silently. "To pass this trial, you must complete the pyramid," the sentinel said. "But beware, the tools are not without consequence." Amir and Dev approached the site, examining the hovering machines. Each bore symbols from the mummy's wrappings, pulsing faintly as if alive. Dev activated one, and it began to hum, lifting a massive stone effortlessly. "This is incredible," Dev said, guiding the machine to place the stone. "But why does it feel like there's a catch?" As if in answer, the ground trembled, and shadowy figures emerged, distorted, monstrous versions of humans, their eyes glowing with malice. They moved toward the pyramid, clawing at its stones and dismantling their work. "They represent the forces of destruction," the sentinel explained. "Every act of creation will summon opposition. Overcome them, or your work will collapse." Amir grabbed a nearby staff-like object, its surface covered in glowing hieroglyphs. As the shadowy figures approached, the staff activated, emitting a burst of energy that sent one creature sprawling. Dev, panicked but resourceful, used another hovering machine to hurl a stone at the advancing horde. "This is more than just a construction challenge," Dev shouted. "They're testing how we handle resistance." Amir nodded, focusing on balancing defense with progress. While Dev fought off the creatures using the machines, Amir worked to place the stones, deciphering the symbols on the staff to activate protective barriers around the pyramid. The work was grueling. Each step forward met with greater resistance. Hours, or what felt like hours, passed. The shadowy figures grew more numerous, their attacks more coordinated. Amir's arms ached, and Dev's movements became sluggish. Just as they began to falter, the pyramid emitted a bright pulse of light. The creatures froze, then dissolved into nothingness. The sentinel reappeared, its form glowing brighter than ever. You have passed the trial of creation. The pyramid stands, a testament to your resolve and ingenuity. Amir collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily. That was intense. The sentinel's gaze softened. The trial is meant to test not just your skills, but your spirit. The second trial awaits. Amir and Dev barely had time to recover before the white expanse returned. This time, the scale hovered before them, its two sides empty. For this trial, the sentinel said, you must weigh the consequences of your choices. Each decision will tip the scale. Achieve balance, or face collapse. Objects began to appear around them, representing resources, people, and abstract concepts like knowledge and power. Each choice felt impossible, every decision fraught with unforeseen consequences. Dev, analytical by nature, began to strategize, but Amir's instincts guided him toward choices that balanced compassion with pragmatism. When the trial concluded, the sentinel said, you have shown restraint and wisdom. But the final trial will test the core of your being. The serpent trial transported them to a hostile alien landscape, where survival depended on their ability to adapt to rapidly changing conditions. Strange creatures hunted them, and the environment itself seemed alive, shifting and morphing to challenge their resolve. Exhausted but determined, Amir and Dev navigated the trial, using their wits and fragments of the Sky Wardens' knowledge to endure. When the trials were complete, Amir and Dev stood once more before the sentinel, their clothes torn and their bodies battered. You have shown promise, the sentinel said, but humanity's readiness is not for me to decide. It is for you to prove. The wrappings floated between them, their glow soft but steady. Take the knowledge. Protect it. Use it wisely. But remember, this is not the end. The Sky Wardens are watching. The lab reappeared, and the wrappings lay inert on the table. Amir and Dev exchanged a look, the weight of their responsibility pressing down on them. What now? Dev asked. Amir smiled faintly. Now we decide what kind of future we want to build. The lab remained eerily silent after the sentinel's departure, the faint hum of the wrappings the only sound in the room. Amir and Dev stared at the inert fabric, knowing the immense responsibility they now carried. The Sentinel's trials had tested their resilience, but the real challenge lay ahead, safeguarding the knowledge and deciding how or if it should be used. Amir, Dev broke the silence. This isn't just a discovery anymore. This is a global issue. People will come after us. Governments, corporations. We're sitting on the most valuable and dangerous information in human history. Amir nodded, his mind racing. We can't keep this hidden forever, but we also can't let it fall into the wrong hands. Before Dev could reply, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Amir tensed. Were you expecting anyone? No, Dev whispered, already moving to shut down their equipment. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and the lab door creaked open. A tall woman in a sleek black suit stepped inside, her expression unreadable. Behind her, two armed men in matching uniforms flanked the doorway. Dr. Khaled. Mr. Patel, she began, her voice calm but authoritative. My name is Alina Grayson, and I represent an international coalition dedicated to protecting artifacts of significant historical and technological importance. Translation. You're here to take the wrappings, Amir said, stepping protectively in front of the table. Alina smiled faintly. We're here to ensure the knowledge is handled responsibly. You've made a remarkable discovery, but the implications are far-reaching. This isn't something two individuals can manage alone. Amir narrowed his eyes. And what happens if we don't cooperate? Her expression hardened. Then you'll be putting yourselves and countless others at risk. The organizations who already know about your find won't wait patiently. Some aren't as diplomatic as we are. Dev shot Amir a worried glance. She's right. If they found us this quickly, others will too. Amir hesitated, weighing his options. He had no reason to trust Alina, but her words held truth. What does your coalition intend to do with the knowledge? He asked. Alina stepped closer, her tone softening. We want to study it, preserve it, and use it carefully to advance humanity, without repeating the mistakes of the past. But we need your cooperation. Amir's mind flashed back to the Sentinel's warning. The knowledge is both a gift and a test. Could this coalition be trusted, or were they just another power-hungry entity disguised as protectors? Give us time, Amir said finally. We need to secure this data and assess its significance. If your coalition is what you claim, you'll respect that. Alina's lips pressed into a thin line, but she nodded. You have 48 hours. After that, we will intervene peacefully if possible. With that, she turned and exited the lab, her guards following close behind. As soon as the coalition agents were gone, Amir turned to Dev. We don't have much time. If they're willing to give us 2 days, it's because they think we'll crack under pressure. What's the plan? Dev asked. We encrypt the data, Amir said. Lock it down so only we can access it. Then, we take the wrappings somewhere safe. Dev hesitated. Encrypting the data might work, but moving the wrappings? That's risky. We'll be followed. Amir paced the room, his mind racing. Then we need a distraction. Something that makes it look like the wrappings are still here. Dev's eyes lit up. I can rig a holographic decoy. It won't fool anyone up close, but it might buy us time. While Dev worked on creating the decoy, Amir focused on encrypting the data extracted from the wrappings. Using a combination of advanced algorithms and the Sentinel's hieroglyphic patterns, he created a lock that would require both human intuition and machine precision to decode. By dawn, they were ready. Dev placed the decoy in the containment chamber, its glowing fibers indistinguishable from the real wrappings at a glance. Meanwhile, Amir packed the genuine wrappings into a secure case, shielding them from electronic tracking. We need to move, Amir said. If the coalition realizes we're gone before we're out of Cairo, we'll never make it. Under the cover of night, Amir and Dev left the lab through a back entrance, the case containing the wrappings hidden in the trunk of their aging Land Rover. They headed south, aiming to lose themselves in the vast expanse of the desert. But their escape didn't go unnoticed. An hour into their drive, headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. Dev glanced nervously at Amir. They're tailing us. Amir gritted his teeth and pushed the accelerator. The Land Rover roared as it sped down the uneven road, sand kicking up in their wake. The pursuing vehicles, a sleek black SUV and a military-style truck, closed the distance. They're gaining, Dev shouted, clutching the dashboard. Amir veered off the road, the Land Rover bouncing violently as it tore through the desert. The headlights behind them faltered for a moment but quickly adjusted. A flash of light erupted from the SUV, gunfire. They're shooting at us, Dev yelled. Amir swerved to avoid the bullets, his mind racing. Ahead, the dunes rose sharply, offering a potential escape route. Hold on, he shouted, steering toward the dunes. The Land Rover climbed the steep incline, its engine straining. As they crested the top, Amir slammed the brakes, causing the pursuing vehicles to overshoot. He quickly reversed, heading down the opposite side of the dune. Did we lose them? Dev asked, looking back. Amir shook his head. Not for long. We need a plan. Then he saw it, a narrow canyon cutting through the desert. It wasn't on any map he'd seen, but it offered the perfect place to hide. Amir guided the Land Rover into the canyon, its high walls shielding them from view. The further they drove, the darker it became until the only light came from their headlights. "Where are we?" Dev asked, his voice echoing off the stone walls. "I don't know," Amir admitted, "but if we stay here, they won't find us." As they ventured deeper into the canyon, the walls began to glow faintly, etched with markings that looked eerily familiar. Dev pointed at them, his voice tinged with awe. "Those are the same symbols as the wrappings." Amir stopped the Land Rover and stepped out, his flashlight illuminating the markings. They were intricate, pulsing softly as if alive. The air grew warmer, and a low hum filled the canyon. "This isn't just a hiding spot," Amir said. "This is something else." Before they could investigate further, the ground beneath them trembled. The canyon walls began to shift, the symbols glowing brighter. From the depths of the earth, a massive structure began to rise, a gleaming pyramid of metal and stone, its surface covered in the same glowing hieroglyphs. Dev stared in disbelief. "Amir, what have we just found?" Amir's pulse quickened as the top of the pyramid opened, revealing a beam of golden light shooting into the sky. "We didn't just find it," he said, his voice trembling. "It's been waiting for us." The golden beam from the pyramid shot into the sky, illuminating the night like a second dawn. The hum reverberated through the canyon, sending ripples of energy through Amir and Dev. The sheer power of the structure was overwhelming, as though the earth itself had come alive. Dev stumbled backward, his voice shaking. "Amir, we need to leave. Whatever this is, we're way out of our depth." Amir didn't budge. His eyes remained locked on the pyramid as a series of panels on its surface began to shift and align, forming a massive door. The hieroglyphs glowed brighter, their patterns matching the ones on the mummy's wrappings. "No," Amir said. "This isn't the end. It's the next step." The door opened with a low, resonating sound, revealing a chamber bathed in soft, golden light. Inside, alien machines whirred and pulsed with life, their designs beyond anything Earth had ever conceived. "This is it," Amir whispered, stepping forward. "This is what the wrappings were guiding us to." Dev hesitated but followed, his curiosity overcoming his fear. The chamber was vast, its walls covered in more glowing hieroglyphs, some shifting as though alive. In the center stood a monolithic structure, a crystalline obelisk suspended in a field of shimmering energy. The obelisk emitted a rhythmic pulse, like a heartbeat, resonating in their chests. "It's alive," Dev murmured. "Or at least it's active." "But what is it?" Amir approached the obelisk cautiously. As he drew closer, the hieroglyphs on the mummy's wrappings, still sealed in the case, reacted, glowing in sync with the obelisk. The pulse quickened, and a voice filled the chamber, calm yet commanding. "You have brought the key." Amir froze. "The key?" The voice continued. "Encoded within the fibers you carry is the sum of our knowledge, and the sequence to unlock this facility. Place the wrappings on the pedestal." A section of the floor shifted, revealing a raised platform inscribed with intricate patterns. Amir hesitated, glancing at Dev. "What if this activates something we can't control?" Dev shook his head. "We've come this far. If we don't do this, someone else will. At least we're trying to understand it." Taking a deep breath, Amir placed the case on the pedestal and opened it. The wrappings unfurled on their own, their fibers intertwining with the platform. The chamber brightened as streams of light flowed from the obelisk into the wrappings, and the hieroglyphs around the room synchronized, forming a single unified pattern. The voice spoke again. "Access granted. Initiating the core directive." The obelisk transformed, projecting a series of holograms into the air. The images showed the Sky Wardens, tall, ethereal beings with elongated forms and luminous eyes. They were surrounded by pyramids, vast energy grids, and advanced technologies. The narrative unfolded as the voice narrated. "We were travelers, seeking to guide fledgling civilizations toward enlightenment. The energy grids we established were meant to stabilize your planet and provide resources for your growth. But not all among us agreed with this path. The holograms shifted to show a schism among the Sky Wardens. Some of the beings turned violent, their once noble forms twisted into monstrous shapes. The rebellion led to catastrophic battles, and the energy grids became weapons instead of tools. To protect your world, the voice continued, we encoded our knowledge and sealed it within your most sacred traditions. Only those who demonstrated wisdom and resilience could access it. The images faded, and the voice grew softer. You have passed the trials. The knowledge is now yours to wield. Use it wisely, for your choices will shape the destiny of your species. The chamber fell silent, leaving Amir and Dev staring at the glowing obelisk. Streams of data flowed around them, offering glimpses of technologies that could solve humanity's greatest challenges: clean energy, advanced medicine, interstellar travel. This could change everything, Dev said, his voice filled with awe. We could end poverty, disease, war, but we could also destroy ourselves. Amir nodded. The Sentinel was right. This isn't just knowledge, it's power. And power has always been dangerous. As they debated their next move, a rumbling sound echoed through the canyon. Outside, the black SUV and military truck from earlier skidded to a halt. Alina Grayson stepped out, her eyes narrowing as she spotted the beam of light. They found us, Dev muttered. Amir turned to the obelisk. If we leave this here, they'll take it. They'll use it for their own ends. The obelisk pulsed, as if responding to his thoughts. A new hologram appeared, showing an option to seal the chamber permanently. Beneath it, another option glowed faintly. Activate the core directive. What's the core directive? Dev asked. The voice responded, it will send a signal across the galaxy, summoning others of our kind. They may offer guidance or judgment. Amir's mind raced. Activating the directive could bring allies, or invite danger on a scale humanity couldn't imagine. But sealing the chamber would mean burying the knowledge forever, leaving humanity to fend for itself. Amir placed his hand on the controls. We have to choose. Now. Dev stared at him, then nodded. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Amir closed his eyes, his hand hovering over the options. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, but he knew there was no turning back. He took a deep breath, then made his choice. The canyon fell silent as the chamber's light dimmed. Outside, the beam of light vanished, leaving the desert cloaked in darkness once more. Alina and her team rushed into the canyon, only to find it empty. No pyramid, no obelisk, no sign of Amir and Dev. Amir and Dev stood miles away, watching the horizon. The consequences of their choice would ripple across humanity's future, but for now, they could only wait. We did what we thought was right, Amir said quietly. Dev nodded, his gaze steady. Let's hope the world is ready.